The police didn't knock politely. They took my wife away in handcuffs, and it all started with a birthday gift I thought meant love. Folks, Uncle Mickle here, that I've lived long enough to know life doesn't usually fall apart all at once. It cracks quietly first. But sometimes, when it does collapse, it does so fast and loud, and right in front of you. This is one of those stories. I'm 68 years old, or I was when this happened. Retired. Widowed once before. Thought I knew the shape of betrayal. Thought I'd already paid that price earlier in life. Turns out, the bill wasn't finished. It was my birthday, nothing fancy. Just a quiet morning in our kitchen, sunlight coming through the blinds, the smell of coffee a little too strong, because my wife always brooded like she was trying to wake the dead. She smiled across the table at me, the same smile I trusted for over a decade. Then she slid a box toward me. Brand new tablet. Still sealed. Expensive. More than we usually spend on gifts for each other. She said, "You've earned it." And I believed her. I didn't ask questions. I didn't wonder why. I didn't think twice about the way her hands lingered on the box, just a moment longer than necessary, like she was making sure of something before letting go. I thanked her. I kissed her cheek. I told her she didn't have to do that. She just smiled again. That same smile. A few days later, I took that tablet with me to my grandson's place. His name's Ethan. Smart kid. Cybersecurity analyst. The kind of mind that sees danger where the rest of us see convenience. I'd only planned to ask him to help me set up email and maybe install a few apps. That's it. He powered it on. 5 minutes. That's all it took. He didn't finish what he was doing. He didn't joke. He didn't explain. He just went pale. Then he leaned close and whispered something I will never forget. "Grandpa, we need to call the police." I laughed. I actually laughed. Told him he was being dramatic. Told him it was just a tablet. A gift from my wife. A woman I trusted with my life. But Ethan didn't laugh back. His hands were shaking. And 11 days later, the police were standing in my doorway, asking me to step aside while they arrested the woman I thought I knew. Now listen to me carefully. This story isn't about technology. It's not about hacking or gadgets or passwords. Those are just tools. This is a story about trust. About how easy it is to ignore the smallest warning signs when they come wrapped in love. About how betrayal doesn't always look like secrecy and distance. Sometimes it looks like generosity. I want you to stay with me through this. Because if you've ever trusted someone completely, if you've ever brushed off that quiet voice in your gut because you didn't want your world to change, then this story is for you. I didn't think my life was a crime scene that I didn't think my marriage was evidence. And I sure as hell didn't think a birthday gift would unravel everything I believed about my home. But it did. And once the truth started coming out, there was no putting it back. Let me take you back to who we were before all of this broke. Back to the calm before the damage. Before everything shattered, my life was quiet. Not the lonely kind of quiet, but the earned kind. The kind you settle into after decades of work, loss, compromise, and survival. Mornings had a rhythm. Coffee at the same table. The radio low. The dog sleeping at my feet. Evenings were predictable too. Dinner around 6. Television humming in the background. Her knitting needles clicking like a metronome keeping time for our days. My wife's name was Linda. We met later in life. Both of us carrying history. Both of us cautious. She had a laugh that filled rooms and a way of touching your arm when she spoke, like she wanted to anchor herself to the moment. I liked that. After my first wife passed, I promised myself I'd never rush into love again. Linda didn't rush me. She waited. She listened. She made space. That's how trust grew, slowly, naturally, without fireworks. We weren't flashy people. We didn't travel much. Didn't post our lives online. We paid our bills on time. We waved to neighbors. We argued about groceries and thermostats, not money or fidelity. From the outside, we were invisible. And I took comfort in that. Looking back now, I realize how badly I needed that comfort. Linda handled most of the tech stuff in the house. Online banking, streaming subscriptions, account passwords. I never thought much of it. She said it kept my mind free for better things. I joked that my brain was already free enough. She laughed. I laughed. And I let her handle it. Days blurred into years. Birthdays came and went. Holidays with the grandkids. Small repairs around the house. She'd hand me tools. I'd fix things. She'd compliment me like I was still the man I used to be. Strong, capable, reliable. I believed her. But here's the thing about hindsight. It sharpens everything. Moments that felt harmless suddenly glow like warning flares. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. There were tiny changes. Nothing dramatic. She started staying up later than me, saying she liked the quiet. I didn't question it. I've always been an early sleeper. She'd angle her laptop away when I walked by, then smile and say she was just watching cooking videos. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Every now and then, she'd ask odd questions. Casual, almost playful. Do you ever worry about identity theft? Do you know how many people get scammed online these days? If something happened to me, would you know how to access everything? I thought she was being responsible. Thought it was part of getting older. Planning. Preparing. I told her she was smart for thinking ahead. That still stings. Now, let me ask you something before I go further. Have you ever had that gut feeling that something was off? And that tablet, that wasn't a gift. It was a key. And I had no idea what door it was about to open. The first time I turned the tablet on by myself, nothing felt wrong. Clean screen. Friendly setup prompts. Smooth, fast, better than anything I had owned before. Linda had already charged it, already removed the plastic film. She watched me from across the living room while pretending to read, glancing up just often enough to check my reactions. Like it? She asked. I told her I loved it. And I meant it. It asked for my email, my password, standard stuff. I hesitated, just for a second, and she noticed. You can always change it later, she said casually. It's just to get you started. I nodded, typed it in. Looking back now, that moment feels heavier than it should. But at the time, it was nothing. 100 tiny trust decisions we make every day without realizing their weight. For the next few days, the tablet sat on the coffee table. I checked the news, watched old baseball highlights, played a few word games. Nothing strange. No pop-ups. No weird behavior. If anything, it worked too well. Linda asked about it more than once. Everything working okay? Any trouble signing in? Does it feel fast enough? I thought she was just proud of the gift. Wanted validation. I gave it freely. Then came the visit to my grandson's place. Ethan lives in a small apartment filled with wires, monitors, and coffee mugs that never quite look clean. He's sharp-eyed, always listening. The kind of kid who notices when something's off before he can explain why. I handed him the tablet and said, "Think you can help your old grandpa set this thing up right?" He smiled, took it, powered it on. At first, he joked, told me I was running outdated apps, teased me about my email habits. Then he went quiet, not sudden, gradual, like someone easing their foot off the gas. He tapped, swiped, opened settings I didn't know existed. 5 minutes passed. His shoulders stiffened. He asked me a few questions. Calm ones. Who bought this for you? When did you get it? Has anyone else used it? I told him. Answered honestly. Still smiling. That's when his face changed. Not panic. Not anger. Something colder. Focused. Like a doctor spotting a tumor on a scan. He locked the screen and set the tablet face down on the desk. "Grandpa," he said quietly, "has Grandma ever asked you for your passwords?" I laughed again. Same laugh I'd used to brush off worry. "She's my wife," I said. "Of course she has." He didn't laugh. He stood up, walked to the window, took a breath, then came back and leaned in close, like the walls might be listening. "Something's very wrong with this device," he whispered, "and I don't think it's an accident." I felt my chest tighten. Just a little. He explained, but not all at once. Said there were hidden processes running. Encrypted connections. Software that shouldn't be there, especially not on a brand new consumer tablet. He said it looked like the device had been configured to monitor activity. Capture keystrokes. Mirror logins. Spy stuff. I told him he was being dramatic. Told him maybe the manufacturer pre-installed things. Told him Linda wouldn't do something like that. "She's not stupid," I said. But she's not a criminal either. Ethan didn't argue. That scared me more than if he had. He just said, "I don't think she's the target, Grandpa. I think you are." That sentence landed hard. I felt defensive, embarrassed, angry even, like he was accusing my life of being a lie. I took the tablet back, told him I'd talk to Linda, told him not to jump to conclusions. He didn't stop me. He just said, "Please don't reset it, and please watch carefully." I drove home in silence. Linda was in the kitchen when I got back, asked how Ethan was doing, asked if the tablet was behaving. I said yes. I watched her eyes when I said it. They flickered, just for a second. Relief, or something else. That night, I barely slept. Not because I believed my grandson, but because I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd asked those questions, about the way she'd handled the tablet before giving it to me, about the way she'd smiled when I typed in my password. Folks, pause for a second. What would you have done in my position? Would you have confronted her right then? Or would you have waited and watched? Drop your answer below. I'm curious what you would have chosen. Because I didn't confront her. I waited. And that decision changed everything. Waiting is a strange kind of torture. When you wait with suspicion in your chest, every sound feels louder. Every smile feels rehearsed. Every normal moment starts to feel staged, like you've wandered onto a set where everyone else knows the script but you. I didn't say a word to Linda at first. Instead, I watched. I watched how often she checked her phone now, how she'd tilt the screen away when I sat down beside her, how she'd ask, almost casually, if I'd used the tablet that day. Not what I'd done on it, just whether I'd used it. That detail mattered more than I realized at the time. I started doing small tests. Things I'd never do otherwise. Logging into accounts at odd hours. Opening banking apps and closing them immediately. Typing nonsense passwords into fake login screens I created just to see if anything. New accounts. Loan applications. Credit inquiries I didn't recognize. Documents filed under my name, but not in my handwriting. Digital fingerprints that traced back to my life. My social security number, my medical records, even my late first wife's information. It wasn't sloppy. It was systematic. Ethan told me, gently, that whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. I asked him the question I'd been avoiding. Could it be Linda? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Grandpa, whoever set this up had access to your home, your habits, and your trust. And they didn't start last week." I felt sick. I drove home slower than I ever had. Every memory replayed differently now. Every late night. Every question she'd asked. Every time she insisted on handling paperwork so I wouldn't stress. I walked into the house, and everything looked the same. That was the cruelest part. Linda was folding laundry, smiled when she saw me, asked how lunch went. I almost broke right there. Instead, I said I was tired and went to lie down. That night, while she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and realized something I hadn't let myself consider yet. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. I started digging on my own the next day. Old mail. Statements I'd ignored. Emails I'd assumed were spam. Letters from institutions I didn't remember dealing with. They'd all been rerouted, intercepted, answered before I ever saw them. My name had been busy while I was living quietly, and Linda had been right there the whole time. I confronted her with something small first. A fake letter I printed, claiming a credit issue. I watched her read it. She didn't ask what it was about. She told me not to worry. She'd take care of it. That was the moment betrayal stopped being a possibility and became a fact. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to let the truth settle in my bones. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was my wife using my life like a resource. I need you to understand something here. This wasn't just betrayal. This was my whole life crumbling. Have you ever been blindsided like this? Someone you trusted completely, just destroying everything? Share your story below if you've been there. Let's heal together. By the end of that week, I knew enough to know I couldn't unsee it. And I also knew something else. If I confronted her now, she'd destroy whatever evidence was left. So I made a decision. And once I made it, there was no going back. There's a moment after betrayal when the pain peaks, and then something else takes its place. Clarity. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies. No speeches. No slammed doors. Just a quiet, steady realization that whatever you thought your life was, it isn't anymore. And that means you have two choices: stay frozen in grief, or move with purpose. I chose purpose. I stopped reacting emotionally. I stopped looking for comfort. I stopped hoping there was a misunderstanding that would magically explain everything away. Hope, at that point, would have been the most dangerous thing I could hold on to. Instead, I planned. Carefully. I told myself this wasn't revenge. Revenge is loud. Sloppy. This was about protecting what little of my life was still mine, and making sure the truth came out in a way that couldn't be buried. First thing I did was lock down my own behavior. I used the tablet exactly as before. Same routines. Same times. Same apps. I didn't tip her off. I didn't change passwords yet. I didn't confront her. I became predictable on purpose. At the same time, Ethan and I started building a parallel world she didn't know about. New email accounts. New phone number. New cloud storage. Everything done from devices she had never touched. Ethan walked me through it slowly, patiently, like you would with someone recovering from a stroke. No judgment. No panic. Just steps. Emotionally, though, I was unraveling in private. I'd look at Linda across the dinner table and feel like I was sitting with a stranger who knew my secrets better than I knew hers. I'd listen to her talk about neighbors, groceries, TV shows, and wonder how someone could sound so normal while quietly dismantling another person's life. At night, when she fell asleep, I'd lie there replaying memories. Our wedding. Our first Christmas together. The day she helped me sort through my late first wife's things and held me while I cried. Was any of it real? That question almost broke me. But here's the hard truth I had to accept. Even if parts of it were real, what she was doing now was real too. And it was deliberate. The more Ethan dug, the worse it got. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't desperate. Linda had been preparing for years, slowly building credit under my name, opening lines she could access, positioning herself as the gate, and Linda had no idea what was coming. The moment I involved the authorities, everything accelerated. No drama. No flashing lights yet. Just quiet professionals who knew exactly what questions to ask, and which ones not to. A federal investigator met me in an unmarked office downtown. Calm voice. Sharp eyes. He listened while I laid out everything Ethan and I had documented. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he nodded once and said, "She's been careful, but not careful enough." From that point on, I wasn't driving the car anymore. I was a passenger. And oddly enough, that brought relief. For the first time in weeks, the weight wasn't mine alone. They told me to keep doing exactly what I'd been doing. Be normal, be predictable, be trusting. That was the hardest part. At home, Linda sensed something shifting. I could feel it. She watched me more closely now. Asked more questions. Once, she casually mentioned how stressful money stuff can be at our age. How easy it is to get confused online. I nodded. Said nothing. Behind the scenes, investigators were watching the data move in real time. Tracing connections. Linking accounts. Building a timeline that painted a picture even uglier than I'd imagined. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was funneling money elsewhere, paying people, funding things she'd never spoken a word about. The morning it happened, she made pancakes. I remember that clearly. The smell of butter. The radio playing softly. She set the plate in front of me and kissed my forehead, like she always did. I thanked her. That's when the knock came. 3 sharp knocks. Not loud. Not polite. She froze. I stood slowly, every muscle in my body buzzing. Opened the door. 2 officers. A woman behind them holding a folder thick enough to tell the whole story without a word. They asked for Linda. She stepped forward, confused, smiling, until she saw the badges. "What's this about?" she asked. The woman spoke calmly, clearly, explained the charges. Identity theft. Fraud. Wire transfers. Federal offenses stacked so high I lost count. Linda turned to me. Not angry. Not scared. Betrayed. As if I had done something to her. "Michael," she said. What is this? I didn't answer. I just watched as they placed the cuffs on her wrists. Watched as her composure finally cracked. Watched as years of careful control evaporated in seconds. And this is the moment everything changed. Tell me, are you rooting for me right now? Or do you think I went too far? Be honest in the comments. Uncle Mickle can take it. She didn't scream. Didn't fight. Just kept looking at me like she was trying to memorize my face. Like she couldn't believe I'd stepped out of the role she'd written for me. As they led her away, she said one thing. You wouldn't have survived without me. The door closed. Silence rushed in. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. The house felt bigger once she was gone. Not emptier exactly. Just quieter in a way I wasn't used to yet. No clicking knitting needles. No late-night typing from the other room. No soft questions about whether I'd remembered to log out of anything. The silence wasn't peaceful at first. It echoed. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time that morning. Pancakes cold on the plate. Coffee untouched. Staring at the chair across from me like it might explain itself if I waited long enough. It didn't. The days that followed moved slowly. Then all at once. Statements to give. Forms to sign. Accounts to freeze. Lawyers who spoke carefully and never promised more than they could deliver. Investigators checked in regularly, filling me in just enough to keep me steady. They told me the case was solid. They told me I'd done the right thing. That didn't stop the grief. Because no matter how justified it all was, I still lost something. Not just a wife, but the version of my life where I thought I was safe. Where I thought I understood the person beside me. Friends found out. Neighbors whispered. Some reached out. Others avoided eye contact like betrayal might be contagious. I didn't blame them. People don't know how to sit with uncomfortable truths. Ethan visited often. Brought food. Helped me reset the house. Literally and figuratively. I understood that people can live two lives in the same skin. That love doesn't always mean loyalty. And that trust, once broken, doesn't shatter all at once. It dissolves slowly. Until one day you realize there's nothing left to hold on to. I also understood my own part in it. Not blame. Responsibility. I ignored signs because the truth was inconvenient. I let comfort outweigh curiosity. I handed over pieces of my independence because it felt easier than staying alert. That doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. And if you're listening to this thinking, that could never happen to me, I want you to hear this clearly. It could. Not because you're foolish, but because you're trusting. So here's my final question for you, and I really want to hear your thoughts. Is it better to forgive and move on, or to make sure they understand exactly what they lost? There's no wrong answer. Drop it in the comments. For me, the answer wasn't revenge or forgiveness. It was truth. Truth has weight. It has consequences. And when it finally comes into the light, it does the work for you. You don't have to shout. You don't have to punish. You just have to stop protecting the lie. These days, my life is smaller, but it's honest. I wake up without wondering who's watching. I log into my own accounts. I make my own mistakes. And I sleep knowing that whatever comes next will be on my terms. If you're carrying a story like mine, if something feels off and you've been telling yourself it's nothing, listen to that voice. Not with fear, with respect. It might be trying to save you. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Uncle Mickle's voice travels. Trust is precious. Protect it, but never surrender yourself for the comfort of keeping the peace.